Hey people, it's Dan Larsson. Welcome to the newest Synthesize Sunday episode. Today I want to show you a neat little bass sound, what I made, and this clip is what I'm talking about. Let me show you it in context. So I pretty like this sound, and I somehow feel it a little Skrillexy kind of bass, but some of our friends say they don't feel it Skrillexy. Anyway, the source sound is pretty simple. Let me show it to you that it really only is a saw wave modulated with a sine and just, high pass filtered. This is how it sounds. Very simple, but with the processes, we can make a very neat little sound out of it. So this is awesome, I believe. I used 3 processing racks. These are not really important to put them into a rack, but for me it is a little simpler to see everything what is going on. And also a final touches rack, but that is not really important. Anyway, so let's jump into it. Let me tell you in advance that these are pretty heavy processes, so these racks are pretty complex and pretty advanced, so don't be afraid. Like every neuro bass sound is made using very heavy processes, so let's jump into it. The first rack contains 2 chains, and both of them goes parallel. I haven't split up the frequency into bands, and let me just disable the other racks so you'll be able to hear what is going on only in that rack. So the first rack doesn't do too much to it, just a pinch of a little darker sound. So I use an auto pen. It is a very low amount, I mean it is not fully wet, and an OTT and a bandpass filter, and I cut out the very lows because I didn't want to conflict with the sub and the other frequencies. This is the first chain, and the second chain is really only a little cut on the very highs at about 12 kHz. And what I added is an OTT to the end, so it is really just giving the sound a little movement. So this is the only goal here. So process rack 1 is like, you don't really need it. So let me show you that without rack 1, the magic happens in rack 3. So anyway, let's jump into the processing rack 2. Now this is a little more complex. I split up the spectrum to 3 bands, but when I experimented with the sound, I figured out that playing with the frequency shifter on 2 similar bands, what you can see here is I have this band from 250 Hz to like 22 kHz. I have 2 instances of these bands, and I use a different amount of frequency shifter on each band. So the first one is plus 1 Hz and the other one is minus 1 Hz. And I just added these little movements, this process, to the original rack, which is just the untouched version of the sound. So these chains are which really makes the sound a little more interesting. So let's go further. When I close this box, I have a flanger with heavy movement, heavy modulation, and let me disable the other racks too. And with this EQ, I got rid of the very highs and those very important 4, 5, 6 kHz range what really needs to be taken care of. Now I have another rack, and this time I split up the spectrum into 2 bands, not like before where I just experimented with the bands. So what I did here is on the top band I added a chorus, and on the lower band I didn't do anything. So this only gives a touch of chorus, a touch of voices, to make the sound a little more organic and push the sound away from that very metallic and artificial kind of sound. So this is all here. Rack 2, process rack 2 is not really important again. Let me show you it. But that flanger with the voices, it gives a lot more natural sound. So the magic happens in rack 3. So let me show it to you. Because this contains some heavy filtering. So let me open it up. I have 2 chains. The first one is just a low-paced one. You know, I just get rid of the very highs from about 11 kHz. And I added another instance of the same sound. But this time a little affected one, which I use here, a band pace filter and some low pace, you know, to not conflict with the lows, with the phases, which is very important if you want to make clean bass sounds. So this is the first rack, and I added an OTT after that. A bit warmer preset from the Saturator plugin, another chorus, you know, to give more voices. Okay, and the phaser, it is really important here. And this makes some movement on the sound. Makes the tone a lot deeper. I also got rid of the very lows on the stereo side, so this EQ8 is working in mid-side mode. You know, I click on the side. So this is all. The filtering, the band pace filtering, and with the phaser we get this pretty nice neuro kind of sound. Also the chorus gives that very big help to us to make the sound even more deeper. So the final touches is another chorus. If you don't like the sound of this chorus, you know, just get rid of it. But to be honest, in the surroundings, you know, compared to the other sounds, I felt it is necessary. I added another saturator to boost up the sound. Now this delay works in stereo enhancer mode, where I didn't use any synchronization to the DAW BPM. I just used the full wet, so we didn't have any unprocessed signal going through this simple delay device. The right channel has no delay, but the left channel has a little delay on it, so this way you will feel the sound a lot wider, stereo wider. And an EQ, which is pretty important here. Because again, I had to match the tone of the sound to the other basses here, like the FM8 bass and the serum bass, and the saturated to the end with some soft clipping, you know, to use it as a kind of limiter. So this is a sound. It is pretty complex, but you know, if you want, you can get rid of the first 2 racks. But altogether they give a pretty nice tone, but the real magic happens in process rack 3. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I have pretty exciting news for you guys, so stay tuned. I'm going to tell you everything soon. See you next time, guys. Bye bye.